Good morning, everyone. We're a little bit late starting this morning. What was it? One of our participants said he didn't want to get up this morning. So welcome to Being Your Own CEO. This is our success team, and this is a weekly Hangout on Air that we do unless we have technical problems, which do arise every once in a while, but we just roll with it and carry on. So we like to get together to share some support, some information, some socializing, some jokes once in a while, some encouragement. So welcome to those of you who are outside the green room, and welcome to everybody who's here. And I think we should begin by doing a very short introduction of ourselves. So let's see, Craig, you're on my left this morning. Do you want to begin? And you're mute.
Well, now I'm not mute.
Right.
Yeah, my name's Craig Hughes. I'm actually in Rochester, New York, as opposed to everyone else who's in Canada.
Except for me.
or hails from Canada. Let me put it that way. I do local business promotions, and I do that through my company, Who Marketing, and that's about it today.
Right on. Welcome. We missed you last week.
Well, I'm sorry. I was in the middle of a photo shoot, and I think it came out very nicely.
It sure did. So for those of you who are sitting outside, and those of you who are in, if you go to the Being Your Own CEO community, Craig has posted the video he did. It's fascinating. Just loved it. So thanks for doing that. So Jay, you're next in line. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Jay, and my company is Affiliate Resources, Inc., and I help people get started in the online world of business.
Right on. And Jay has some interesting statistics to share with us this morning. So, and Nathan, how are you doing? Still in Mexico?
Oh yeah, I'm technically in southern Ensenada, but then I recently discovered that I'm in an area called Ejido Chapultepec. How's that for a mouthful? Yeah, my gig for the last number of years has been freelance writing, and I'm in the middle of a transition out of that, but that's what I do right now. But yeah, I'm in Ensenada, well, southern Ensenada, Mexico.
Right on. And Paul.
Good morning. I mentor people.
Oh, well, tell us a little bit more about who you are, Paul.
Oh, okay. I'm unsuccessfully retired. How's that?
Welcome to my world.
Exactly. Yeah. So, anyway, one of the things I'm fooling around with is over the past year there is a group that's been forming a referral network that I was looking at, and they seem to have got their stuff together, and they'll be launching it in the fall. What I like about them is that they do both online meetings as well as in-person meetings. So,
you're talking about Rapid Time Networks?
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Right. Rapid Time Network.
RTN, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So it's nice to have you with us, Paul. And good morning. And so I might introduce my business. My business is called Workstyle Lifestyle Consulting. And as you can see from the screen, my website is justmyname.com, Loan. And I love working with solo entrepreneurs to help them really get focused and find find ways to systematize what they do and to enjoy their work. I host this Being Your Own CEO Success Circle on a weekly basis. I also help people make better use of the Google integrated products and Google Plus and all of those good things. And I also manage a Google Plus community for a local women's organization called the Peninsula Business Women here as well. So it's and I'm very hopeful and interested in helping people figure out how they can make as good a use as they can of all these online things, but also the whole concept of building relationships online. How does one do that? And by the way, I started a program with Plus Your Business this week, and I've been very busy watching a lot of Hangout videos on making it all work a little bit better. So welcome everyone. And last time we were not able to record for some reason. There was a technical glitch, and the record button just didn't show up on the Hangout. So we had a video call instead. And through the conversation, we were chatting about, I guess it was the conference that Jay had attended. And I think I remember saying, you know, what sort of new trends or what sorts of things, what were some of the themes. And one of the things that he mentioned was the whole business of mobile and the way people are using mobile. And so we decided that it would make a really good topic for us to discuss. So that's what it's about this morning, mobile use, what it's about, maybe how we make use of mobile, and how people in general use it, but also connecting that up to our businesses. So, you know, we hear a lot of talk about how important it is to have a responsive website, for example, but and that's just part of the puzzle, I would think. So that's what I thought we could have a chat about this morning. And Jay had said he would be happy to share some of those statistics with the Hangout on Air this morning. But first, I thought it might make sense to just go around the table here and see whether you know, how extensive is your use of mobile. So Paul, what about you? Do you use mobile a lot?
Yes.
Yes.
From strictly a phone situation or the whole smartphone?
I use a smartphone.
Right.
We seem to be getting an echo here.
Yep.
Oh, I'm not hearing an echo. That's interesting. How about you, Nathan? Do you make use of a mobile on a regular basis, or what's your and I suppose if you do, it would be a little bit different from where you are.
Not really. I mean, I've been using mobile for quite a while. The only thing that's different is that I'm in Mexico, but my sites are essentially the same. They're all English-based sites. The only thing that happens that's different is on a phone down here, and that's assuming that I don't have, what the heck is it called, a proxy server going. Then I'm going to see announcements and advertisements in Spanish for Mexico, as opposed to something for Canada or the US, but essentially the mobile experience is more or less the same.
It is, eh? Oh,
Yeah.
right on.
Yeah, just might be a little bit slower down here. The internet in Mexico, from what I've seen, is not as fast as what I would encounter back in Canada. But other than that, outside of the ads and things like that being in Spanish, it's more or less the same.
Right on. So, and Craig, what about you? Do you make use of mobile?
I spend most of my time helping clients get their sites responsive, so that would be my the way that I enable that to happen. As far as my phone, I needed one that was bulletproof and waterproof, so I have an older phone. Unfortunately, they don't make newer phones that have the features. When I'm out on a search, I need to have a phone that's going to work if it's pouring rain. We were out on a weekend where we got 4.5 inches of rain, and we were out walking in the woods all weekend. Everything got wet, and so I needed to have an operational phone. I was glad that I had it, but it's got an older operating system on it, and it's really kludgy to use for anything other than a phone.
Well, what about getting an updated phone but putting a waterproof case on it, like say the Osprey case or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I'll have to do, because right now the limitations on the software are just driving me nuts. So.
Craig, do you feel like you're like the last man being picked on the team because of that? Because you have this kind of antiquated type of phone?
Well, it's not an antiquated type of phone. It actually is a smartphone, but it's.
Okay.
I mean, it's not. It's not like my mom carries, where it's got you flip it open and oh.
Yeah, there certainly are lots of people around who are carrying around something that's really antiquated. I ran into that experience. My spouse, who lives in the territories, was here over the last several weeks, and he's got the most antiquated phone. I haven't seen one of those for a long time. So that was my mantra the whole time he was here.
I would imagine a text costs like $5 or something, right?
God.
I actually worked with someone a few years back. He had the last phone in Rochester that was on a party line.
Yeah.
And the thing was that he was the only one on the party line.
That's hilarious. Party lines. God, I remember those from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's ancient technology.
Yeah, right.
Party lines. My God.
Yeah. So, and I might say I just got the latest, I guess, the Samsung 6, and I don't have a landline. I operate strictly from my phone, and I use it for everything.
And Skype. I've seen you on Skype.
Yeah, I use it. Well, I do use Skype if I'm at my desk, but I use that phone for many, many, many things. Lots and lots of conveniences. So, you know, somebody pointed out to me recently that who also has a smartphone and doesn't use nearly the capabilities that I do. And she pointed out that you know, if you're in business, that does tend to make you sort of use it in much different ways. So Jay, what about you? You obviously use a smartphone because you checked in at the coffee shop just before you got here.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the many conveniences of having a mobile device, you know, and I think we've all easily adopted mobile technology into our daily routines, you know. So I mean, it's funny because when I traveled, when I did my my conference in Seattle, I didn't have to print a ticket. I did everything. I checked in on my phone. I showed the little QR code on the phone, and it was. I even booked my trip on an app, on the Travelocity app. I was able to check into my hotel through their app. So it was absolutely fantastic, and I loved it because one of the reasons why I liked it was because it keeps my low carbon footprint. So whereas I don't have to print out all these papers and stuff, so it's fantastic. So. And it's great. I mean, I use the Google Plus app and whatnot. So I find that I'm using more communication apps versus actually using it as a phone. I mean, like you, I don't have a landline for my business, and it works just fine. In terms of a communications tool. But as your business grows and goes beyond local, you need to find a solution that goes beyond, local landline, right? So I think the tools that are used and enabled in a mobile device are really good, in terms of expanding your business. So that way you don't have to deal with expensive landline long distance fees and whatnot. So,
Well, one of the issues if you're a traveler like me is you want to buy a phone that's unlocked.
Yeah.
If it's not, if it's locked to the carrier, you might not be able to use it outside of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And the major reason I bought this particular one, which has now become antiquated, it's only 3 years old, but it might as well be a dinosaur, is that I can change the chips in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came down here, I walked into Movie Star, and I think I paid 100 pesos, and they changed the chip, put it in the phone, and I had 50 pesos worth of time, and it all took only 15 minutes. So now I have essentially a Mexican cell phone, and yeah, I mean, what else can I say? It's just but the convenience of being able to change the chip is really, really nice.
Oh.
And years ago I had another Samsung, but it was locked, and I had a guy unlock it for me, and then when I came to Mexico I got a Telcel chip in it, and it worked just great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're fantastic. They are.
Yeah, and from what I've understood from speaking to people who travel, I mean, it used to be a big hassle, and that sort of changing chip and so forth has become pretty darn easy now. By comparison, there's a little business downtown here who that does that's what their business is. That and transferring data from one phone to another. I guess they do that for people as well. Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked about a little bit about how much whether we use it or not, and out of that has come a few things that we would use a smartphone for. I find, the usual things that I access on my desktop, like email and to-do lists and contact lists and all of those things. Those are really, really big and really important for me. Another obvious one is maps if I'm trying to find my way somewhere or whatever. But there's a few other things that I don't know how extensively other people use, but I sure find very convenient. One of them is to be able to pay parking. The city here has an app where you just download it to your phone, upload some money onto this app, and so when you pull into a parking lot or a street parking, you just type in the number off the section and it's paid. It's done. It is so convenient. I love it. The other thing, the similar app is just paying for coffee at Starbucks. You can load money onto your Starbucks card on your phone, and you just pay. You just do that, so you don't have to carry a whole lot. I mean, if it's getting to the point where really all you need to carry is your phone.
For what it's worth, I saw a woman pay for her coffee in Starbucks the other day here in Mexico. I was so surprised to see that, but
Yep.
she did, and it worked. Yep. It was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It works. It works really easily. A few other things that I use mine for. One of them is to see what's on at the movies, and to be able to watch a trailer, see whether I want to go. I think I can even buy my ticket to the movie.
Yes, you can. You can order your tickets right on the phone.
Yeah. Right on the phone. The other one that I use a great deal is, it used to be called Urban Spoon, and it's now called Zomato. And so it'll tell you the names of restaurants in the vicinity where you are, or you can do searches for certain kinds of cuisine. You can quite often go in and see what's on the menu. And there's a direct line if you need to make a reservation. I make use of things like that all the time. So and Jay, that's an amazing thing to be able to just, log in and not have to carry a whole lot of stupid paperwork that we used to have to carry. So
yeah, and I think our discussion this morning so far essentially solidifies, proof that we live in a mobile era, and we use our phone for, a plethora of things, including searching for something that we want, searching for businesses that we want. And I think the customer retention through a phone, if you have some sort of app or mobile responsive site, is starting to exceed people on a desktop in terms of keeping them on as a customer and client. Clearly, it depends on what the business is, but I actually have some graphs here, some data I wanted to share with you.
Good.
This one. Okay, so this is a graph of from the year 2008 to year to date, basically now, and it shows you the basically the percentage of people using different types of technologies to access information. So from 2008, it was a very, very small number of people using mobile devices, only a 12% market share, and that represents the green column. And today, it's 51%, so it has now officially exceeded any other kind of desktop or laptop or I think other connected devices really does represent like a tablet, essentially. That's my guess. And so with that, with that being said, and seeing that, we have a huge job to make sure that not only are our sites mobile responsive for a really good user experience for when people land on your site, but also that you're ranked in the search engines for your business, regardless of what your business is. So because with 51% of the people using mobile for whatever, including Google, you want to make sure that your site is mobile responsive, because if it's not, you're not going to get ranked. Because what Google is seeing is that they want to be able to create a really good user experience for their clients, and their clients are the people who search for stuff. And if they're not, if the site isn't, they're going to kind of boot you out of that the first page. Now I'll share another one with you here. Let's stop for a second.
Google actually on April 21st decided that everyone should be mobile centric, and they started penalizing sites for not being mobile responsive.
Yeah, affectionately called mobile get-on. So, for those of you who are worried about this trend, there is actually hope for people, especially if you're a service-based business where you want people to experience your site on a laptop or anything else. So this graph shows the percentage of people who are searching on a phone for various things, ranging for searching for info, browsing the net, shopping, planning a trip, et cetera, social networking. So the first column, searching for info, is really the one that I think is the most important, because it's the one sector here that is how you're going to get new clients, one of the most prominent ones. So as you can see, you get a large market share of people who are searching for info through their phone. But the good news is that they are typically, once they find the information that they want, and they want to carry on that experience, they will switch over to a PC. As I said, especially if it's an information where they want to do a lot of due diligence, where they want to do a lot of information seeking before they decide to make a purchase or hire you or what have you. So that's good. So I think, in essence, it's okay to have a mobile responsive site, but I think if you're able to add certain elements that only show up on your phone, for example, or on your mobile site, for example, having a little widget or a little text thing that says, hey, welcome my mobile friend, I think you should come to my main site on a laptop to really experience what's going on. And there's tools out there that can help you do that. If you're on a WordPress site, there's little applications that can help you, like widgets and plugins and whatnot, that can help you create these little messages that only show up on your responsive site, so which is good. I mean, if you're running a Joomla site, there's certain themes that allow you to do that create modules that only show up on a mobile device. So, and I think that's really important to do, especially if your business where it really essentially relies on people gathering their information through a laptop as opposed to a mobile device, Because, I mean, when it comes to searching, as it says right here in this graph, is, people are primarily using their phone to search, but it's a sniff test, It's just like a fine wine, They first kind of give it a whiff, and if it looks good, then they'll move on to the next stage, which is going to a PC. And you want to be able to harness that. So I think having something where it says, hey, come on over to my main site, or a lead capture form where they can fill in their information, and then you can send them an email saying, hey, remember us, come to our site on a laptop, because we got some cool videos on there. We don't want to waste your bandwidth or whatever. So, and one of the neat things that I also learned at this conference is the majority of the data and the way they're doing things and experimenting things with like Google is they're actually using mobile to kind of create things and adopt it to laptops and desktops. One of the things is something called knowledge graph, right? So if you ever search who is the richest man in the world, and then you have this little box that says, well, this person is the richest man in the world, and it shows you the source, the citation as to where they got that information. So that knowledge graph was essentially invented for mobile users who were asking, like, Siri, or, I don't know if Samsung has like an equivalent to Siri, but so that they can create a really good user experience for their people who are searching this kind of stuff. So then they realized that, well, maybe we should adopt that to desktop. So now if you type that question in, then you'll get this little knowledge graph box, right? Whether it be below the search or on the right or whatnot, and we actually have the power to control that as well, or at least give suggestions to Google to, hey, maybe use our source instead of Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is one of the prime sources that they use knowledge graph in. So, yeah, it's wild. I mean, lots of experiments that they're doing primarily came from mobile, and it's being carried over to desktop. And that's a really, I think we're in a really interesting time when it comes to search and the search engines, because what it used to be where they used to do experiments on desktop and then they tried it on mobile. That's actually now flipped, because they see that 51% of the market share is mobile searchers, or is mobile. So, and if you're not prepared for this, then your competitors will. End of the story is that your competitors are going to outrank you, and they're going to outsmart you by having this information, and they're just gonna, and then you're not gonna rank, you're not gonna get any additional business.
So one of the things that I've noticed about or that I'm wrestling with in terms of my business is I mean, and Craig, you might have something to say about this as well. I mean, if you're on Google Places or Google Business or whatever, I mean, that's kind of a location-based. It seems as though, or at least what I observe, is that that a lot of people do searches with their phones that is location-based. Like, where do I find such and such a kind of store? Or where do I find such and such a kind of activity or whatever? But the what I struggle with is you know, how does mobile and the way people are using it, how can that impact a service-based industry that is not location-based? And that's the one that I wrestle with a lot. And one of the things that we were chatting about earlier in the green room is some of the new apps that are social in nature, so to speak. I mean, there's Instagram, which is kind of a picture-based thing, but then there's Periscope, that is a video. It's video, but it's strictly for use on your phone, or Meerkat. These are all ways that people are beginning to connect or create relationships and connect with one another strictly from a mobile device. So that's another piece, that whole social networking piece is really beginning to change in a big way, I think.
Lolan, most of the people that are talking about marketing today refer to mobile devices as the first screen. And the reason they do that, that's what people are going to first. If they're watching TV, they have it in their hand. If you have your computer on, it's sitting beside you. If it buzzes, beeps, or twitters or beeps or whatever it does, you go to it first. So that's why it's important to be there, and not to change the statistics that Jay gave us, but Marketing Profs, I believe it was yesterday, put out an article, and it was just Twitter and Facebook. 80% of the transactions on there were done on mobile. So it's moving exponentially fast to mobile, especially for younger markets. But I find even old people like myself are increasingly using their mobile for as much as they can figure out how to do on it.
I agree. Somebody made a comment the other day that she was out somewhere where there were quite a few sort of older residents, and they were all. It might have been in a coffee shop, and they were all on a mobile device. So I think the demographic thing, where we thought it was all just younger folks, I don't think that's relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to answer your question, Lolan, if I can, in terms of like geo-based, service-based industry. So let's say you're driving along somewhere on the road in Oak Bay, and then you get a rock hits your windshield, bang, and you get this big giant crack. So you pull over to be safe, and next thing you know, you're on your phone, and you go, mobile windshield repair, and then you're going to get a list of businesses that are probably close to you, right, or like are considered close to you. At which point, then you can make your decision. Now let's flip that on the other end, and let's think about the business owner who's trying to rank for that. So, if I'm a windshield repair business, and although my people don't come to me, I go to them. As long as I have an address that I actually don't even need to publish anymore. It doesn't need to say, oh, I live at on Oak Bay Avenue. as long as there's a service area, there's a thing where it says, well, what is your service area? How far are you willing to go? And what Google does is it looks at that service area as to where you physically are, where your business is listed. And then it also looks at what's called the centric area, so an area that is what Google perceives as like the central part of the city. And then it kind of calculates the two, and then it determines where you are, and says, all right, well, let's triangulate all this. And if it's basically the person who seems to be the closest to all of those, typically is going to be ranked at the top. They're going to be in that A listing. Now, that's only one metric, though. So if that person is the closest, but they don't have a mobile-friendly site, or they're not actively inside Google+, then they're not going to be on the top. So that's just one kind of check in terms of getting ranked, right? But so that's really good news for people who are service-based industry. And I work with several service-based clients that rely on that centric and that service area type of business. And one thing that's really important that we've noticed is that you want to be actively inside Google+, within the Google+, the local Google+ community. Very, very important, So and segmenting the people who you're following and they're following you into these different kind of category circles.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, it's actually worked really well for our clients. But it's really important to be active and to share news stories and talk to each other, not kind of go out beyond the YYJ, for us. In terms of being active inside the circle. But by doing that, you stand a really good chance of getting ranked for something, that's service-based.
Yeah, and it's everything that we're learning from the social end is about interactions and relationships. Apparently, the Google algorithms now are not so much keyword based as the frequency and the kinds of relationships that you are developing online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also Facebook has actually released a new advertising platform where you can place an ad that shows up, like if you're within a kilometer or a mile from your listed address of your business, and you search for something, or if you're in Facebook and you mention something about like windshield repair, an ad would show up that says, "Hey, listen, you're only 1 kilometer away from us. We can come to you if you want." So, and I think people are really starting to adopt that kind of technology. Although I'm not really a big fan of advertising on Facebook through mobile yet, because I don't think it's people aren't pulling the trigger. They're not committing to paying or buying or contacting people through Facebook for business-related purposes.
Oh,
and I think that's still really early.
Lolan, to go back
yes?
to your question, if you are a service like yours that you're looking for clients that don't have to be geographically near, I think the importance that mobile plays, or how to be better at mobile, is just make sure all of your messaging and all of your mobile displaying of your material is easy to operate on, so that if you have a sign-up form, or you have a contact me, or if you want to publish your calendar to book an appointment with you, all of that, when it displays mobily, is very simple for someone to do, and just play with mobile devices to make sure that happens, because I think that's increasingly important.
That's a really, really good point. Well, it's true of your main website to begin with, that it needs to be really easy and intuitive and so forth. But I suppose we double that if we think about the mobile experience. From the social perspective, the other thing that I noticed is that Google Plus has one, and Facebook has one. There are these little messaging things that pop up on your screen, and I find that I keep those, like those things. I use my mobile mostly for that, rather than the desktop. So it's getting to the point. I think Jay, you kind of alluded to that there are certain things. I mean, if you're really into having a phone, you've got it close by. I guess that's what you said. But what I'm saying is there are certain things that I only do on mobile, and I don't use my desktop for, just because it's more convenient, and you use the two different platforms for different things. So, and that's from a business perspective. I mean, we really need to be thinking about
customer behavior.
How can we make use of that notion that, yeah, I only use my desktop for this and that and the other thing, and I only use my mobile for this and that and two more other things, you know. So I guess it would depend on what sort of a business you're in to
Absolutely.
sort of really work through what the mobile behavior of your target group would be.
Well, there's a great tool that can help you determine how many people are visiting your site and searching through a mobile device versus a desktop, and that's actually Google Analytics, which is a free tool that's put out by Google, which tracks your traffic's behavior from search to where they leave, and it tracks so much data to the point where you can determine what phone that they were on, where they came from, what pages they visited, what page they left, averagely how long they were on your site, averagely how long they were on each page. So, I mean, with that data, which is provided to you for free, assuming you've got Google Analytics set up on your site, when you have that knowledge, you can then understand your traffic's behavior on how your site is doing right now through a mobile device, and then you can make changes based on that data. So if you notice that people are coming in through search on mobile and they're landing on one specific page more often than all of your other pages, but they're not staying on very long, they're only on there for about 60 seconds at most, then you need to determine why they're leaving for 60 seconds. So what I do is I go on my actual phone and look at that page, and I look at it and I put the stopwatch on. And typically it's either at the bottom of the page, or maybe there's a video that ended up being like off to the side and stuff like that. So it's 8 times out of 10, it's usually the user experience has been flawed. If it's not, if it doesn't seem to be flawed, then what you can do is try to capture that information at that point in time, like put in a lead form, within that 60-second point, and go from there. So, I mean, that Google Analytics is so powerful in terms of understanding your potential client's behavior and what they're doing, where they're going, what phone they're on. I mean, it also obviously includes desktop traffic as well. So, yeah.
So I mean, this whole mobile thing, I mean, I mean, we really need to be paying attention and watching the trends, and I guess from what you just said about watching what the behaviors are, and I guess what the next step of that is a bit of experimentation. Try this and then go and see what result you got.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and by experimenting, and well, I mean, it is an experiment, but you have some data before you kind of jump into it, so that way you have a base understanding of your client's behavior, your traffic's behavior, and then you can hypothesize and say, well, I think I'm going to do this because of all this data that I have, right? And then track that information. You can actually, inside your Google Analytics, you can put an annotation, like a little bookmark, sticky note, if you will, and it tells you can put a note saying, hey, I changed this on this day, and then you can see the graph in terms of what's worked and what hasn't. So yeah, I really do love that feature. So I mean, if you're not on Google Analytics right now, I very much urge that people do get on Google Analytics because it's free. Google wants to give you that data, So yeah. And for those of you who are on it and you don't know where it is, if you actually go into your Google Analytics, your reporting area, you go to Audience and then Mobile. Audience and then Mobile. And then from there, you can understand where people are. So, and what people are doing.
So that's good advice. I certainly I'm set up on Google Analytics, and I'm just now beginning to play around. Oh, there's something that we should look at.
Yeah. So just showing you, this is Google Analytics. This is the reporting area. So I go to Audience, Mobile, and then this is an overview as to people on a site here. So we can see that primarily it's just under 49% is desktop, 43% is mobile, and 8% is tablet. So, and then I can track. I can actually set it up so that I'm only looking at the mobile data if I want. But this gives you a really good sense in terms of, okay, well, I need to step up my game in terms of mobile, right? So, and you can see this bounce rate. What this represents is, the percentage of people that are leaving, they're coming in on one page and leaving and not going to a second page. That is what's considered a bounce rate. So, and we can see on mobile, primarily, it's a much higher bounce rate, but that's okay on mobile. Mobile is very typical to have a high bounce rate because, as what we've all been kind of saying, people kind of do this small experience in terms of they do a sniff test and they'll come to your site, they'll absorb the information, and then they leave. So whether they do they might phone you, they might email you right from that thing, and then right from that page, and if they do, and then they leave your site, then that's considered a bounce rate. So if you see a high bounce rate through mobile devices, it's okay. It typically means that you're getting some sort of lead acquisition.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really important to be paying attention. The other piece I think is that I think is important is to be staying on top of the general trends, because if we don't hear about various applications and things that you can do, you miss out. A perfect example, I've stumbled on a few people who are really enjoying that banking experience where you can just take a picture of a check and make an automatic deposit. And pardon?
I've done that.
Have you? Yeah. So so there are two banks that I know of that are doing that, and of course not the bank that I'm dealing with. And so I had a conversation with an occasion to be speaking to somebody in the bank and asked, why is that service not available? Because my main branch is downtown and there's no place to park. And so, but the answer I got was this particular bank didn't feel as though the technology was strong enough yet, that it was fraught with a whole lot of problems, and they weren't willing to go there as yet. So I need to do a little bit more research around that, but I mean, I've been to a few trade shows and a few street markets and whatnot, and I've stumbled on numerous people that are using the credit card scanner. What's it called? It's not called
Stripe.
Square.
Square. That's what it is. Square. Yeah. So I mean, there's just all kinds of things that people are going to be doing more and more and more. But we do need to stay on top of what the trends are, what people are trying out, what what are some of these experimentations that various developers are playing with as well. So I'm looking at the time. Oh man, we're really over this morning, but it was an interesting conversation, and thank you very much, Jay, for sharing those statistics with us.
You're welcome.
It is important for us to realize that people do different things on different devices, and to figure out how that works. So before we close, any closing comments by anybody? Craig, what about you? Any other than the fact that you need a new smartphone?
Well, I was actually last night, so no, I just think it's really important that the businesses are aware that what they're seeing, their clients are looking for them on mobile, and if they're not showing up that way, or if they're giving them a bad user experience, their people aren't going to come in the door. And so, I suppose it all depends on what kind of business they have. I mean, I can see pizza joints having a much higher mobile response than, say, a place that sells lampshades. But it's important that the businesses do show up in mobile, and that they can start the user experience from the phones.
Right on. So Nathan, what about you? Any parting comments?
No, nothing to say.
And Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I've got two things. First of all, I just put into the chat room, anybody who wants to put a free listing for their business up on RTN can go there and do it. Secondly, I got a little LinkedIn tip this week that is interesting. First question is, do any of you use calendars on your websites to allow people to book online meetings with you? Okay.
I use a Google Calendar, but I don't know how I would integrate with LinkedIn.
I was talking to a very successful person on LinkedIn who has added their calendar to their LinkedIn profile simply because when people are looking at his profile, if they are interested, it gives them that opportunity to instantly go and book an appointment with him. And he's having success with that, so I thought I'd pass that on.
So do you know where they're going in the LinkedIn profile to add this calendar?
Yeah, if you put it on the summary, that's probably a good place to look at it, because that's usually when they're looking through what you provide. Your summary should be a not a resume, but a statement of your provision of solving problems. So at the end of it is where it goes. You can also put it in your contacts, but that would only be seen by your first tier of people on LinkedIn, which they usually have. By that time, you're usually doing business with them anyway.
I certainly looked at the idea to put it on my website, actually, but I got as far as doing a little bit of research as to some of the different services, and haven't gotten any further. So
it's interesting. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm looking at the summary itself, and it doesn't seem to show how you would add the calendar to it.
You just go into edit and then type in whatever the URL is
for the calendar.
For your calendar, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be an online calendar service.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Okay.
So I think if we've got some more technical things to talk about, we could do that in the green room. I think it's time that we close this broadcast, and I thank all of you for participating. Time to wrap up now. And just with a reminder that it would be really nice if you're out there watching, if you could join the Being Your Own CEO community. Find lots of resources and conversations and whatnot there. But if YouTube is your thing, you could go and subscribe to my channel as well. So this is Lowell Ann signing off for this week. Bye now.